So I'm doing this today because there were two people in here yesterday for breakfast, and Ajahn Dharipalo invited both of them because he was thinking he'd be doing a lot of reflections over the next 2 weeks. Yesterday I was in the car park of Grocery Outlet, and I was coming out having gotten some things for breakfast. And there were two, we call them disabled, but those blue parking, so you have to have a permission to park, and they're very close usually to the door. There was a car that was diagonally across these two parking spaces, so taking up the whole lot of the spaces. And I was parked further away, and I went to the Prius, and there was a truck next to it, and a woman, probably about 35, kind of leaning on the truck, and she said, you've got to wonder why somebody would park like that, and that means that somebody else can't go into the parking space. And she said, I was noticing how I was thinking that way, and then the man comes out, and now all I want to do is go help him with his groceries, because he was this little man with, walking with a cane and finding it very difficult to walk. And then she says, you've got to really watch what you're doing with your thoughts. And I try and really figure out what's going on, and I want to not just go and tend to allow my mind to do what it did when I grew up. I want to watch out, and I want to be patient, and I'm like, whoa, this is Grocery Outlet in Ukiah, and this woman's sharing what's happening with her mind. It was really very interesting. And having gone back now 3 times back home to New Zealand, what I notice is how all of that conditioning and all of the influences that have really affected the way I think, behave, my mental patterns, my kind of interactional behavior is related a lot to that. And when I go back, I slip into what feels just so comfortable, so familiar, and so, for me, pleasant, because it's easier when you're within the place that you grew up and spent, several decades, just to know how things are and how, the expectations, the kind of norms of behavior. And I don't feel like that so much here. So I was thinking about it in terms of family, not just the family of people, but like what's familiar, and the family really of maybe thoughts, particularly mental patterns that we may have operating, and how when they're really familiar, they can maybe be playing like a background music, and we may not pick up on them because we're so used to their presence. So what I find about being here, especially when I'm out, more out of the monastery, is that I'm continually needing to pay quite a lot of attention, because that familiarity and that background kind of constant knowing of how things are is not there. And I think from the Dharma point of view, for myself, the questioning of that family, that familiarity of patterns, they can just, as I say, be playing away without my having clear knowledge, and they might be affecting me in ways. I certainly noticed this back home. I was there for quite a while in their summer, January, February, March. It's kind of like almost slipping back into a familiar kind of set of clothes mentally, and needed to be quite vigilant to pick up on it, just because it was like a familiar tune. So I was really delighted that the woman that I met seemed to be doing that, seemed to be noticing what she was thinking, and then therefore looking out through that lens to what she was seeing, but then questioning that. So it was a very pleasant experience, and I find it's quite easy to have that background and just be going along with it, and sometimes noticing how it doesn't really enhance and create wholesome states, can do quite the opposite. So my going back and forward to the two cultures has been really very helpful for paying much more attention to, as I say, the family, the familiar mental habits, emotional tendencies. So I leave that for your reflection.